The star of today's video is a vintage Mersman coffee table, and this one was purchased from my customizable inventory at CRAWFORDstudio.com. Mersman Tables was founded in the 1870s in Ottoville, Ohio. By the 1920s, they had several offices throughout the United States. The company proudly proclaimed that 1 in every 10 households' tables in America had been made by Mersman. Without further ado, let the transformation begin. This piece was thoroughly cleaned and rinsed with Dawn dishwashing soap and water. Off camera, I filled the numerous nicks and chips with wood filler and let it thoroughly dry, and then sanded them out with my oscillating tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand down the top. It's in good shape, but because it's laminate, I decided to get creative. Here I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper to get the fine details. And I'll be using Bullseye 123 Primer in Gray. It's one of my favorites. Now here I'm using my 2-inch Worcester sash brush. I like using a brush that has about the same width as the surface that I'm working. And now that everything's primed, I'm going to be using Behr chalk style paint. First time I used it, and I have to admit, I really liked it. It's very affordable, and you can custom mix any colors, and they have a pretty good variety of colors that already come, but you can pretty much choose anything from the Behr line, and they will custom mix it. Now let's mix up the glaze for my faux bois. We're going to be using General Finishes milk paint and dark chocolate. I think it looks like hot fudge. We're going to be using about 70% paint. And we're going to be using Floetrol 20% plus about 10% water. And it's going to look about like this, but remember, you have to check it, play with it, get the consistency you want. Now here's a pro tip. Before you're working with these chip brushes, go ahead and take some tape, and you'll see that you can remove a lot of the loose bristles. And I mean, there's a lot of them there. Look at that. Better there than in your finish. Now you can see that I'm offloading my glaze, and we're going to start by applying it in long strokes and making sure I have the consistency that I want. Now here you can see I'm using my fan brush, and I'm alternating between the fan brush, a very fine bristle paint brush, usually used for polyurethane. I don't want a lot of grain look, so that's why I'm smoothing out this finish. Now you can see here that I'm pointing out where it's a little heavy, and for my second layer, we're going to be smoothing that out. Again, I'm offloading, make sure I don't have too much on my brush. And I'll keep working it until I've softened the area and add another layer of paint. And it's always a good idea to keep a damp rag on hand. can see here I've got kind of a blemish. So I'm going to be working at trying to soften that. And I don't worry about these too much. When you're trying to do a faux bois, you know, wood has a lot of different textures and tones, so they can end up adding a little character to it. But if it doesn't soften the way you want it to, you can always just paint it again and blend it till it matches. It is only paint after all. Now, since the top of this coffee table was laminated, I recommended to my client that we cover it in rope. And they agreed. Artistic freedom, my favorite. Now, the reason why I chose this jute is it had a lot of tones and textures, and I'm going to be using this at the top of the table. So what I want to do is take some of those colors and blend them into the existing finish that I'm working on to give it more depth and tone and texture. So I mixed up some glaze. We'll call this one milk chocolate. It's a little bit of a reddish brown, and I'm just going to be applying that. Now, I won't add it everywhere, I'll just put it in different areas. You can see I'm using my artist brush, then I go back in with my mop brush, and I'm just softening and blending as I go. Same thing with the legs. Now, if you want to have a little bit of a heavier grain like oak, you could stop right here, but I'll be smoothing this out with my fan brush. You can really create any look that you want. Remember to always keep a light wrist when you're doing a decorative finish. And now for the casters. These casters were really rough shape. I was so hoping that they were solid brass, but unfortunately they were just metal. So you can see here I'm just using a SOS pad to give them a good clean, and then I come in with my corner cat to give them a little bit more grip. Off camera, these got a brand new look with Rust-Oleum spray paint. You'll have to stay until the end to see how great they came out. Now, in the beginning of the video, I said the star of the video was the coffee table, but in this case, I really think it's this jute rope. And let me tell you, it's going to take a lot of rope. Let's get started. Now, I start out with a very tight coil, and this was a little tricky to get started. After doing a little research, it was determined that hot glue was going to be the best glue to adhere this rope to the table. This is a heavy-duty hot glue, a little stronger than the standard craft glue. I just got it at Home Depot. Coiling it around, holding it down for 7 to 10 seconds till the glue held, and repeated the process. Hard to believe this was the 4-hour mark. But finally, it was done. So I'm able to just go ahead and cut the rope to fit, so that way I had a nice, no overlapping, because some areas it was perfect, other areas it was just a little bit less than what I needed. And then I just trim it, and then I was able to take the rope apart to fill in any areas that had a little bit more glue that I couldn't pull off. I just covered them up with that, and it blended really nicely. had some suede on hand, and I thought it would be a nice way to finish this off. Use up some spare suede that I had from another project. I just put a little hot glue, wrapped it around, and with hot glue it's always best to wait till it dries and then just remove the webs. Then I used a little nail scissor. And add another bead of hot glue. And then just finished wrapping it. And I used these chopsticks that I had. I suffered a lot of burns from this hot glue on this project. Now before I show you this table put together, let me show you a sneak peek of my next upcoming project. This beautiful table has a lot of water damage. Am I going to paint it? Am I going to actually refinish it? Make sure that you're subscribed and that you hit that bell so you're notified the next time I upload a video. Alright, remember where we started. Some nicks and chips. Actually, laminate's not too bad, but I thought it was a good chance to try something different. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you for liking it. And if you're enjoying my content, please consider subscribing. And if you know anybody else that likes content like this, please share it with them. I really appreciate you. And if you missed my last video where I transformed a vintage etagere and gave it a little rustic French country flair, check that video out right here. And until we meet again, bye for now. Hold in your hands, a change is near. Close your eyes, listen, the sound is so clear.